on March 4th, 2015. March 4th, 2015. Last week, I participated in a Twitter chat, a new one, called Headhunter Chat. I think that's what it was called. I can't remember exactly. One of the questions they asked during the chat was, what are the big changes that are happening to headhunting in 2015? And everybody started talking about mobile. Mobile. That was the big thing. I said mobile. I was, the contrarian. But I was being honest. I wasn't just being negative. I said mobile is important for corporate recruiters, but not for headhunters. Not for headhunters, because what's mobile all about? It's about making your website fit on a small screen and making it easy to apply when you're using a tiny keyboard on your phone. That's it. That's all this mobile stuff is about. And headhunters, they don't focus on advertising. They call people at work. You don't find them. They find you. They call you up and say, hey, do you want a new job? So everybody, I don't know, I was the odd man out. So just to reinforce my confidence, I went on the SourceCon live show, and I said, I was on this headhunting chat the other day, and everybody was raving about mobile for headhunters. Isn't that ridiculous? And all the people there, and there were a lot of people there, they said, no, Animal, you're wrong. Mobile, wow, that's so important. So I said, how is it important? You can answer the phone when you're on a coffee break, when you're in the toilet. Someone said, I was driving my car with my friend, and he got a call, and after he was on the phone for a few minutes, he said, hey, I just closed a big deal. And I said, well, what does your friend do? Is he a taxi driver? So he's in the car all day, and the phone lets him recruit and drive cab at the same time? Really, I said, is that it? You can recruit on your commute while you're driving? Or when you're sitting in the subway in the middle of a crowd? No, they said. You can go out on the beach and recruit there too. And then I got it. Who needs an office when you've got mobile? You can recruit from the beach. You don't need an office. You can recruit from the toilet. From all the places you're likely to do a really good job. Mobile liberates you. And that's what all the geniuses are talking about. I finally got it. But I dare one of them to say that on this show. And Jerry, what show is this?
What show is this?
What show is that? What are you, a monkey?
Animal Show! Hey, you've got a bad sound going on here. I don't know if it's you.
It's not me. It's somebody else. What kind of show is this where I got to go through a dozen lines and get rid of these jerks on their stupid phones?
It shows nobody's got any respect for you, Animal. And that's awful.
Shows are stupid. I say it every week. Today the show's, I don't know what it's about. It's not really about recruiting. Bill is going to tell us. Our guest is...
Thank you, friend Animal, and I would hope you clean up your audio because it's really bad.
Bill, I'm sorry about this, and I have no part in this. This sounds awful. I'm not putting my stamp of approval here. This is horrible.
Talk to Jerry for a minute while I try to, fix the thing. Okay?
Hey, Bill, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Jerry, you and I see this world from the same perspective. I'm glad you're here, even though I know you've got an important prep to do, but you'll be back later.
Hey,
yes,
is it gone?
Absolutely.
Is it gone? Is it gone? No. Okay,
look, man.
Bill, tell us. Let Bill, you introduce yourself. Tell us what you're going to talk about today, okay?
Well, this sound is another one of those bumps in the road that we sometimes talk about. But I want to talk about really several things, and I appreciate the opportunity to address the audience. If I can,
you got it. There you go. Who was it?
Hold on. Let me shame that person. 203.
Yeah, publicly. Let's blast this guy.
It's you, 203. What area code is? Where's that? 203.
Jersey.
I think I know who it is. This is Newman, but I'm not going to rat the person out.
Alejandro. Or Mike A. Stringer.
Okay, anyway, let's go. Let's get the show on the road. Bill?
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, that sounds good. Whew.
Bill, what do you want to talk about? Okay? Tell me, please.
First, let me start by saying, which I think most of you know, and I hope people listening know, I'm a recruiter. And I've been a recruiter for, actually, this year is 30 years. I love recruiting.
Unbelievable.
I love recruiters, and I love the process. But technically, I'm a headhunter. And I see a big difference, and it's something at some point I'd like to talk about because I think there's just an enormous amount of confusion on labels. What is a recruiter? What isn't a recruiter? What's a headhunter? What isn't a headhunter? So I want to kind of relate it to some personal trials I've had in my life, some bumps I've had in my road, and the way I've addressed them, because I think there's a lesson that we as recruiters or headhunters can draw from and use. And I want to kind of step back in time about 5 years, because 5 years up to the present, up going forward, is where I learn how to live. And I think it's an important lesson. And let me step back first and say that if you go back 5 years ago, and Animal, you and I have met in Toronto, and you know that I'm physically active. I've been a competitive master athlete most of my life. I was training for what's called a sprint triathlon, which is a short triathlon. And this is 5 years ago. At that time, I was 72 years old. I'm now 77. And
wow.
And I was, well, why? Not really. And so I kept on having a problem in some of my events, and I was running short of breath in swimming, and I was typically working out. I was doing 3,000 yards 2-3 times a week as part of my swimming training, and I kept on running short of breath. So I went to my doctor, not because I thought I was sick, but because I thought my times were being slowed down a little bit. And he kind of prodded it a little bit and prodded a little bit and listened and said, I don't know what's going on. He said, but something is. He says, I want you to go to a pulmonologist and get a high-resolution CT scan.
We don't know what a pulmonologist is, okay?
You don't have them in Canada, dude.
Okay, go ahead.
Because your healthcare system sucks.
Okay, what's a pulmonologist?
It's essentially a lung doctor. Somebody who's concerned with the pulmonary system in the body, lung and heart.
Don't use big words on this show, okay?
All right, we'll try not to.
Who's clearing their throat?
I was running short of breath and got a diagnosis. Doctor kind of matter-of-factly tells me, Mr. Vick, you have IPF. And I said, well, that's 3 initials. What does it mean? He says, well, it means idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And I said, well, what is that? He said, well, why don't you come down to my office in a week or so and we'll discuss it. He said, bring your wife and we'll kind of walk through it. I didn't think a whole lot of it. Went home, went back to what I was doing, didn't pay a lot of attention, went down to his office a couple of weeks later, and with my wife, with Patty. And we walk in and sit down, and the doctor kind of walks in and sticks his head around the corner. He says, well, Mr. Vick, you've got IPF, and the diagnosis is pretty certain. And I said, what does that mean? He says, well, simply it means you're going to die in about 3 years. And he said that with no dance, no necking, no kissing, just up front and very matter-of-factly.
He should have said, bring your wife and the undertaker, okay? Go ahead.
Poor Patty just turned sheet white, almost fell on the floor. I kind of shook my head, what do you mean? And so he said, well, you've got IPF. And so with that, I said, well, what do you do? How do you handle that? He said, well, you can't do anything for it. There is no treatment. There is no cure. He says you kind of wait it out and die. And I said, well, what do I do until I die? And he says, well, anything you want. So I decided to do a little something different because, again, I'm a recruiter. And as a recruiter, we learn some of those interesting skills of dealing with turndowns, of dealing with negativity, of dealing with those situations that are bigger bumps than most people encounter in their businesses. So I took a choice, and I think a lot of our lives based on choices. In my case, my choice was twofold. I could be a victim, I could be a patient, I could be somebody who lets things happen to me, or I could be a warrior and make things happen for me. And I decided to take that path, that warrior path. And at first, I think when you confront something like that, when you're told you're going to die from a disease, you go through a grief cycle, and it's first disbelief, then it's fear, anger, and acceptance. And that cycle takes different periods of time for different people. It took me about 6 months. And during that time, I didn't do a whole lot. I went through all of those disbelief, fear, anger, and then finally acceptance. And when I made that acceptance, I decided to do something for myself, and I just poured myself into doing all those research tools that we as recruiters learn how to use. I spent a lot of time with Dr. Google. I came up with some concepts of my own of how to deal with something like idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And the one thing I will say is kind of a flag I'd like to raise for the audience that's listening, for you, Michael, Jerry, is that the symptoms of IPF are so subtle that it's often confused with other simpler diseases. Example, shortness of breath, a modest loss of weight, a persistent cough. That sounds a lot like bronchitis. It sounds a lot like asthma. And most people are initially diagnosed and misdiagnosed with those things. The only diagnosis that you want to tell whether or not you have it, and 200,000 people, by the way, do have it, the only diagnosis is a high-resolution CT scan. Now, of those 200,000 people, let me point out that every year more people die from pulmonary fibrosis than either breast cancer or prostate cancer. Roughly 42,000 people a year die from it. Every year, 48,000.
More people die from this than breast cancer?
More people die from this than breast cancer.
Seriously?
Or prostate cancer.
What are you telling us that we should get ourselves checked for this disease?
If you have a shortness of breath, if you have a persistent cough, you don't listen to your doctors, you listen to your own heart, your own self, and you try to push for a high-resolution CT scan to eliminate it. You don't want it because once you get it, there's not a lot you can do about it.
Okay.
But
Bill,
early diagnosis
I got to interrupt you. I'm getting a lot of flack on Twitter. People are saying, "How can we pick on this guy? He's a dying man." But that's not true. Okay, you've lived well beyond those 3 years already, and you can take it. So if people want to challenge what you're saying, they can just speak up. Okay, is that true?
At this point, there's nothing to challenge. That might be later on because this is pretty factual stuff. And I'm raising that flag of awareness because I think there's a lot of people walking the street today that do, in fact, have pulmonary fibrosis. I've probably had it for about 10 years. I've only been diagnosed now for a little over 4. So you have to kind of be aware of those things and take action. But the things I've learned because of that, once you stand in front of the mirror and you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I'm dying, and you face that reality, life changes, and it changes, in my case, significantly for the better. And that sounds crazy. But the advantage I have over you, Michael, as an example, when you kind of look at that line in the sand, your life, it's kind of off in that foggy future. I can see mine laying at my feet, and I know when it's finite, and it's different. I now look at my life, my world differently. I've learned lessons I think apply not just to living well, but living well in any life, and including recruiting, because recruiting to me is a lifestyle, not just a business. It always has been. So the first choice I made personally was I follow a process I call SPADE, SPADE, and it's a lifestyle. And SPADE is support for S, prayer, P, attitude, A, D, diet, and E, exercise. So SPADE, support, prayer, attitude, diet, and exercise. That's my lifestyle. That's the way I live. And I think those things have contributed towards my stabilizing or holding off progression of IPF. And that's the best course you can do is hold it steady. So as such, you learn really, really fast what's important in life. You learn the value of people. And I think the biggest lesson I learned in life, it's not the things that matter, it's people that matter. And learning that people, friends, family, other patients, and others are important has defined now my life for the last 5 years. I no longer actively recruit. My mission, quite simply, is first to spread awareness of IPF, as I'm doing now, to hopefully inspire patients and their families to live, not simply die, with IPF. And also, I want to help good recruiters become great recruiters. And anything I can do in those three things, I do every day of my life. So that's kind of my focus and my mission. Because, if you look at life, yesterday's gone, tomorrow may never come, and so you have to live in the right now, the present. And the present sometimes gets a little foggy because as a recruiter, who hasn't faced that fall off that you think your life has ended because you lost a big deal? Or what recruiter has not at some point in time said to themselves, that's the last placement I'll ever make. I just stumbled in this one. Everyone faces those things. But when you face them in the greater scheme of things, and you look at time as something that's finite, it's different. And it's like the bigger problems sometimes have simpler answers. And I find the bigger the problem, the simpler the answer. And the way I now approach things is I go through a process I call chunk and prioritize. I take those problems I might face, be it in business or in life, and I kind of gather them together and prioritize them and recognize I can't do everything, but I can do the important things. It's the same in recruiting. If the typical recruiter probably has a checklist a mile long that they can never, ever get done every day to the best of their ability. And if they simply put things in priorities and look at the 2 or 3 important things and do them and then maybe reward themselves or take a breath and then go on to the next ones, they find that life is much more effective. I like to simplify things. Did you ever see the movie, what was it, City Slickers, Jack Palance? His name in that movie
with Billy Crystal.
Billy Crystal, exactly right. His name was Curly, and he'd hold up his finger and say one thing. Well, one thing is a simple thing in life. I look at it as 3 things, and it's putting those 3 things that you're dealing with in perspective and doing those before anything else, and after you've done those, then do something else. And I think it's the same in recruiting. We sometimes get kind of lost in the process, and again, it's based on your definition of what is recruiting, and that's something I would like to talk about with you, and so that you and I can kind of come to some understanding of what we mean when we say recruiter, because it means different things to different people. But it comes back to, focusing on the basics, and I focus on people first and foremost. I focused on the joy of interacting with others. I focus on giving and not getting, and my life is richer, and it's better because of it. And I just say, I guess in a closing thing I'd say, Michael, and then I like to talk about all those things I touched on. The ancient Egyptians had this wonderful thought, and the thought was that upon death, they'd be asked 2 questions, and their answers would determine whether they'd continue their journey on to the afterlife. And the first question was, did you bring joy? And the second question is, did you find joy? And that's the lesson that I think is the most important lesson I've learned in my life, is to bring joy and to find joy every single day, and I do.
Gary, is that you?
No, but I thought he's now slipping into a joyful song. That was great. It was great. I was loving it.
Somebody put us on hold, I think, and that was really awkward.
You guys really run unique shows.
The timing on that was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was good.
Hold on a sec. I'm going to have to mute everybody.
I say we go with it.
That must be time for the ad.
Something's happening here. Something's happening.
Hold on.
All right,
that was awkward.
Hey, so this is Jeremy. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
I can hear you. I don't know if anyone else can yet.
So one of the cool things that he said, he was talking about, if we're going to relate this back to the recruiting world, he was talking about how he used the skills that he had as a recruiter to go fight the problem. And I was reading the book, The Future of Work, the other day, and it kind of touched on this theme. He was talking about the future workforce is it's not about what information you have or, information is more available now than ever before. So now the new problem is how do you use that information when you get it, and how do you solve problems more than what do you know? It's how do you use things that come your way. And I think he touched on that, in his opening remarks about his illness, was using those skills that he had acquired and the resilience he had acquired throughout his career to go solve the problem and address the problem as opposed to accepting it. So anyway, that was cool.
Jeremy, I personally think if I was not and did not have that recruiting background, I'd be pushing up daisies someplace right now.
Okay, are we open for questions? Is that what we're doing now? I'm winging it. Okay, I have a question, but anybody else can ask a question before me. Anybody want to ask a question?
You mean anybody but me?
Jerry, go ahead. I thought you're busy doing business. You're not with us anymore.
I wrapped it up, dude. I only work 15 minutes a day. Today it happened to be at noon.
Okay. Look, Bill.
I have a comment. If that's okay.
You didn't say anything when I asked, okay? And now when I start talking, you interrupt me. Is that what's that about?
Was that Maureen?
Kathy Manis. Go ahead, Kathy.
It's passive aggressive stuff, Animal. Read about it.
No. I was on mute, and it took me a while to unmute. Well, first of all, Bill, I admire you greatly, not only as an example of someone stellar within our community as professionals, but also your personal journey that you're on. And I think that all of us can learn from that. And I think that we all kind of don't believe enough in ourselves, because when faced with adversity, let's face it, Jerry, right? If like $100,000 placement falls through, that's adversity.
Let me ask my question. Before we get too sentimental here, let me ask my question. Okay, sorry, Kathy.
Before we get there.
Yeah, I'm cutting you off, okay? You two.
Yeah, a little late.
Question. No, I want to ask my question, okay? Bill said, I just learned to live when I was 73 years old. I don't believe that for a second. What was your other 73 years about, okay?
That was the journey.
That was my point, Animal, is that people don't realize that, they have that. They are learning to live, and they are living during that whole 73 years. It's just when they're called upon, to use it in a more, directed way, it becomes noticed.
Thanks, Bill. Billette. Okay. I want to hear what Bill has to say about that, Kathy. Excuse me, okay? Bill, are you saying you didn't live all that other time? You spent 40 years with your wife or something like that, and you weren't alive?
No. Let me, I'd ask one favor. If people ask a question, I'd like to know who they are. Was that Maureen or was that Kathy?
No, it's Kathy Manis, the famous Kathy Manis.
Kathy.
Girl Interrupted.
All right, thank you. Yeah, let me kind of put it in perspective if I can. When I was first diagnosed.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I just wanted to say something to Donato. He's here for once, and he passed a post on Twitter. I'm laughing at you, not with you. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Not you, Bill.
Good.
Me. Okay, thanks.
Well, I take a lot.
I didn't see that tweet.
Well, I'll point out to you. You don't follow him.
When the first 6 months I was diagnosed, I was getting ready to plan for my 50th wedding anniversary. And my wife and I met in San Francisco on a blind date, and we were going out there to celebrate our anniversary and go to all those places we used to go to. And my doctor told me, he says, don't wait 2 years because you probably won't be here to go on that anniversary, so take it now. So we did. And we went out and we told the airplane that it was our 50th anniversary, that we were flying Virgin Airlines. They gave us a bottle of champagne, which was great. And the hotel, it was our 50th anniversary, so we got a deluxe suite, their comp. And just a lot of other wonderful, nice things happened. And I said to myself, that was a lot of fun. So the next year, the doctor said the same thing. He said, don't wait a year, do it now, but you're not going to be here next year. So we did. So we've now gone through 3, and we're planning this year our next and last 50th anniversary. It's a great way to live. But it's a great lesson in living, because all of a sudden you find out how generous and wonderful and beautiful people can be when they have
especially when you go around lying to them, Bill.
Well, it's absolutely
true. Now, come on.
It's absolutely true. So I love this concept of 50th anniversary. Well, what I learned, and I had a good life before diagnosis.
Yeah.
I have a different life after, and I call it the new reality. It's a different reality. And I did okay as a recruiter. In 25 years, I probably, I averaged somewhere around 400 a year in billings, which I think is pretty good. I had my best year was just shy of $1 million. My worst year was about 110. And so I've had a good run at it.
That's over $10 million in personal billings. Give or take half a million.
Whatever it is.
Throwing that out there.
But I had a good run at it. And
you got to think some of that was in the 80s when 400 was big.
My rookie year at MR Management Recruiters was in 1985, and as their National Rookie of the Year, I did 300. Today's world, a national rookie would have to probably do close to 6. So it's the same kind of ratio numbers. So I've had a good run at it, and I lived well. And it was all about the stuff, the things, the house and the trips and the food and the watch and the right shoes and the Gucci this or that. And you find out those things aren't really that important in the scheme of things. What's really important to me now, I love watching one of my grandsons go out in the field and play lacrosse or basketball and just laugh and giggle. And that's more important than all that stuff. And you don't know that until you have a reason to pay attention. And I wish we all had the ability to pay attention in our lives and appreciate the things that aren't things.
Okay, Bill, like I really don't get it. I mean, I don't see how your life changed at all, except that you have to make sure that your wife is going to be provided for if and when you die. I mean, everything's the same as it was before. Nothing changed, really.
Let me quote Steve Jobs, who I greatly admire.
I don't like
him.
Steve,
I knew Steve literally. I ordered an Apple I when he and Wozniak were in the garage. Literally, they never shipped it, but I ordered it. So I've known him a long time. He had a great quote. He says, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You're already naked. There is no reason not to follow your heart. Stay hungry, stay foolish." And he said it, and he said it well. Once you look in the mirror and really understand you're going to die, not talk about it, not theorize it, but know it, your life will change. For me, it changed positively. That's not true of everybody, but for me, it was that.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, if you think you're going to die tomorrow, you can go out and chase girls and smoke dope and whatever you want to do because there's no consequences. You're not going to be here. But a normal life, I'm going to die 50 years from now or 30 years from now. You still have to live your life every day. Nothing really changes.
So do we have to all agree with – now, if we don't argue with you, that doesn't mean we agree with you that there are no consequences if you act like a fool and die tonight, okay?
What consequences are they if I act like a fool and die tonight? Okay.
No, we're just going to let you say that. We're not going to debate things like the afterlife.
Why not?
That was
That was
an extreme statement, Animal. So anyway, keep going.
So you're making statements that you don't have to back up because you figure, hey, I might die tomorrow. What do I care what anyone thinks about what I said, right? Okay. Does anybody have a question for Bill? I'll wait it out because I have a lot of questions. Jerry or anybody, Kathy, anybody.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Bill, earlier you indicated that you're not a recruiter, you're a headhunter. Do you find times that a person can spend a couple of days as a recruiter and then a day as a headhunter, or is it one? Is it one or the other?
I love that question.
I think it's a valid question because I think our business changes, and it's
probably the best question so far.
It's evolving. If you look at recruiting today and yesterday, it's a very, very different business. Mm-hmm. What frustrates me sometimes is maybe the misunderstanding of what recruitment is or what a recruiter is. I think a headhunter is and a recruiter are kissing cousins, but there's a difference. And the difference is I was a headhunter, meaning that my mission and my role was to go out, find the candidate, drag them kicking and screaming if necessary back to my client, and sit on top of them until they accepted a job. Now that's different than recruiting in today's world. It's much more. It's kind of a binary business. It's really a black and white, yes, no, true, false business. As a headhunter, my success was purely based on the fact that I get a placement or not. If I'm a recruiter, there might be other. If I'm working in a company, an organization, my success is keeping my job. It's different, and it's a mindset, and it's not simply working for a company versus working on your own. I don't think it's all of those things and none of those things. I think the definition is important, and I follow many of the postings on Animal Site as well as others. And the business is being shaped today based on all the writings and all of the things taking place with LinkedIn and others that support the corporate mentality of recruitment versus the independent third party. I'm a third party guy. I'm a headhunter. I work for myself, and the client I work for have the first allegiances and loyalties. Do I manipulate candidates? Absolutely. Do I push the envelope as hard as I have to make a
okay,
placement?
let me break. What does it mean? Do I manipulate candidates? Absolutely. What does that mean?
Exactly what I said. Nobody says no. When I'm actively recruiting Animal, I control the situation to the smallest detail, and there is no outside chances or contingencies. If you do it right, you always have success because you'd never have a candidate interview who hasn't pre-accepted the job. You'd never have a company that will interview a candidate till they're pre-offered the job to somebody. I mean, it's a whole process you go through.
No. You said I could ask questions. So if you recruit somebody, you're headhunting somebody, right? You're calling somebody who's already in a good job. You have an idea. You've got an idea what your client can offer her or him, but you're not 100% sure. So, this person's not sure either until he or she goes out and speaks to them. So you send out your candidate before. You can't guarantee, you better take this job if they offer it, or I'm not sending you out. You can't do that.
Well, you can if you do it right. It's different. There's a matter of and a degree of skill in doing that. It doesn't simply happen because you want it to, and it's not an instantaneous wham bam thank you placement. I think if you do the process correctly, my father, who is probably the greatest salesman I ever knew in my life, he really is, and he taught me a lot of things. And one of them is before you make a sale, make a friend. I think before you recruit a candidate, you make a friend. And that's where and Animal, you and I disagree to a large degree on social media and its place in the process. I use social media not simply as a finding tool or a tool to be found on, but a tool to establish relationships. I never would send out a candidate I didn't have some form of a relationship where I really understood their inner motivations and what drove them, and their hidden goals and what they really wanted in life beyond the job.
How long do you have to know them before you know that? 20 minutes?
Much longer. It really depends.
How long? No, Bill. Nobody.
Hold on just a second.
No. Let me just finish this.
We're going to paint him in a corner, and we're going to talk about social media. I want to ask him a question related to the earlier.
I wasn't going to talk about social media, but you go ahead, Jeremy. You gave me a question on your show last week. Okay, I'll pay you back. Go ahead.
So, Bill, you were talking about the difference in a headhunter and a recruiter. Can you, based on all of your experience, how do you identify a person with those skills in an interview? That's one of the questions I get more than anything else. How do you interview someone to make sure they have that instinct versus the transactional recruiter instinct?
I think it takes some time and skill and some depth probing. It's the ability to really understand the inner motivations of somebody. It's not something that happens. I can't say here's 25 rules to follow. It's much more complex. It's the dynamics of human interaction. And I think because of my background before recruiting, I developed those skills. Before I became a recruiter, and people become recruiters for different reasons. I became one for all the wrong reasons. I'd gone through two different lives and two different careers. I'd been in the cosmetic business, which I left after about 15 years as a vice president of sales at Gucci Lanvin, the Gucci Lanvin fragrance division of Menon, and got involved in the computer business. Had a chain of computer stores. Took a software company public, where I lost my fanny and came back to Dallas, big time broke. Putting my house payment on my MasterCard broke. Had a daughter getting ready to go to college. Had a daughter getting ready to get married. Had about $13 in the bank, and that's when I became a recruiter to find a job. And in that process, I learned what recruiting was, because even though I had this background in sales and marketing and management with some Fortune 500 large companies, and I had managed at one point better than 200 people, it didn't mean a lot as far as being a recruiter. It's a business you have to learn into itself. And I failed miserably in recruiting my first 3 months. When I say miserably, I did what I thought I was supposed to do, but I was filtering it based on my background and experience. And I luckily worked for a guy named Bob Bassman, who probably is one of the best, if not the best, managers in a recruiting organization I've ever met, who pulled me aside one day and put his arm around my shoulder, and we were about the same age. He said, kid, if you want to fail your way, keep on doing what you're doing, but try failing mine for a while. And I did. And I became you talk about a recruiting robot. And I was in the office at 7 in the morning, and I was at home making house calls to spousal calls at night until about 8 or 9 o'clock. And I did that every single day. And bingo, it worked. That next month I billed $100,000. And I went on that year to become their National Rookie of the Year, because I listened and I changed the way I did what I knew. However, I still had all those skills and background of marketing and management and sales that I learned in large organizations and companies. And I went through.
Yeah, but you got to answer. You got to answer Jeremy's question. He says, "How can he interview somebody? How can he interview somebody?"
I'm trying to explain. Well, let me.
You're taking the long route. You're taking the long way. Okay.
I am going to take the very long route. So I spent a year at Revlon. My second to last year before I left, where I went out on behalf of the company and attended about 15 different sales, training, and management courses to audit them for the company. And it was a great experience for me, because I had the opportunity of learning over the course of a year the very best training offered by the training companies in America. And those things, those skills, are what enabled me to understand the motivations of a candidate, to manage the candidate, to establish procedures and hurdles that they had to follow, to put in place things I used to call the 20-20 rule, which is, 20 feet or 20 seconds, you're done with the interview, you're on the phone to me first, and they were. And just a lot of things like that. To answer the question, it's delving into those things that motivate a candidate. It's not sometimes it's fast, but I'd say typically it would take me 3 to maybe 4 calls of probably 20 to 30 minutes each before I got to that point of what I call candidate control. So maybe 2 hours, 3 hours of time that's spread. It was spread across 3 or 4 days. Very seldom did I call and talk to somebody on day 1 and present them on day 2. It'd be talk to them on day 1 and present on day 4 or 5. So it's different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but he wants to know how if you're interviewing somebody, you can tell if they're a headhunter or a recruiter.
Oh, you mean hiring a person to work for you?
Yeah, that's what he wants to know.
All right. I'm going to relate to you then, if I can, what happened at Pinnacle. And I was one of the founders of Pinnacle. And we used to sit around a table and do a process called pinnacleizing. And pinnacleizing was asking each other and trying to come up and build a model of a super recruiter. We were, at that point in time, the top 1% of all recruiters in North America. If we could replicate ourselves and hire that person, we could make a lot of money. We did it for 3 years. At the end of 3 years, The only conclusion we came up with, it wasn't discipline, it wasn't marketplace, it wasn't background, it wasn't training. The one thing, the one commonality we found in every one of those people in that room was they were not pursuing success as much as they were fleeing failure. They were not going towards achievement, they were fleeing not achieving. And that was the determination. That was the only factor. And if I was going to hire somebody today, I'd be looking for those things.
How do you figure it out, though?
A lot of questions.
Like?
A lot of intuition, Mike. You know, there's again, it's not that 25 words or less or a checklist of 10 things. It's a discussion. You know, if you want to have that discussion for the next half hour, I'll be glad to have it with you, and I'll make a determination. I'd met you once in Canada.
No, this is Jeremy's question. No, this is Jeremy's question. He wants to know,
okay.
Maybe he'll have you. He's going to have you on the SourceCon live show then to answer that.
I'll give you the answer right now. The answer is that there is no pat answer to determine the difference. You have to spend time and delve into the person and understand their inner motivations. Are they pursuing success? Are they fleeing failure? Can they walk, talk, chew gum? Do they have the skill set? How do they handle themselves in a negative situation? There's just a whole bunch of stuff you have to go through.
Do you think it's possible?
Question for Jeremy. Jeremy, did that answer your question?
I'm satisfied with that because I feel the same way when people ask me about hiring a good sourcer. A lot of it is me having a conversation and then making an intuitive call. It's not, I can't give you 5 questions, and if they answer them this way, then they are. So he gave me insight, and I think that's good, but I think that in the end, it's an intuitive call. So I feel good about that.
There's no pat answer to it, because if it worked all the time, everyone that's part of Pinnacle would all be hiring those kinds of people and making a lot of money, and they're not all doing that. I mean, it's just a very difficult thing. Recruiting is a tough business. It's, if you hire 10 people a day in the world of recruitment, in success and failure, there's going to be 2 of them left at the end of the year. At the end of the second year, 1 of those are gone. And at the end of the third year, it's a 50-50 if that's a keeper. I mean, how do you know? It's just a very difficult, it's a binary business. You make it or you don't. You succeed.
What complicates it even more is people who want that skill set, but they want them to be employees, not,
sure.
Not third party. So that's
absolutely. They want
more
the security
difficult
clutch. Sure, they want that clutch of security. And I find that most of the people I know out there that are big billers are by nature risk takers. They're also they're not unlike you, Michael. They're not afraid in confrontation. They're not afraid to understand that their role in the process is to satisfy themselves first and foremost, and that means a placement.
Okay, I picked up some questions because I knew you were going to come with some new philosophical view of life. So I want to see how you're advising us to handle, the tough stuff that comes up as a recruiter. So we're going to recognize, your first thing is recognize that you're going to die. Okay, so this recruiter is 25 or 30 years old. Not 70 or 77, okay? He gets a job order for a very senior job, but, it's a tough one to fill, finds a really good candidate, sends her out to the company.
Wait, hold on. He got a job order. I'm not sure I understand. When you say he has a job order, how did he get the job order?
By cold calling.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
He cold called. So it's not somebody who's working behind a desk in an organization.
No, it's a headhunter. It's a third-party agency recruiter, okay? Working for him or herself.
That's not necessarily a headhunter, but okay.
That's a question we can debate later. So here, anyway, picks up the job order, gets it, a senior, let's say a senior marketing person, $200,000, whatever. And so they love her. The client loves her, has her out a few times. They're ready to make an offer.
Loves the recruiter or the candidate?
They love the candidate, okay? So
you're jumping around a lot. You
really took some leaps there.
Answer.
Gosh.
Okay.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I get
Go ahead,
the job
Animal.
order,
You're jumping
find
around.
the candidate. They love the candidate. It's very easy to understand what I'm saying. Don't ridicule me. Don't be an Donato, okay? So anyway, and then they do a reference check, and checking the references, they find out that she has a boyfriend in France, and they decide that they don't want to hire her. They won't even really tell you, but you find out from talking that and they're afraid she's going to get married and leave the country. So they won't, and she swears up and down that's not going to happen. But your client won't move after you've done all the work and found the perfect person. What's your attitude with your new view on life?
Nothing to do with a new view. It's any view. That stuff happens. Yeah.
Bill, I thought you came here to tell us about the revelation. I thought you had an epiphany, okay, and that you were going to. Jerry told us that. He says Jerry told us a recruiter has to always be able to take a $50,000 punch in the stomach, right?
And smile while you take it. Stuff happens.
Really?
Listen,
of course.
Unfortunately, we're all human beings, and human things happen. If this was a science and not an art form, which it is. It's an art form. It's not a science. It's not black and white. You can't punch it in the machine.
Can I add something here, though, Bill? Can I add a little bit of my own thoughts on an answer here for this thing? It doesn't just come out right before they're getting ready to make the offer. This has been known from the first couple of times you talk to this stellar candidate.
If you do it right.
And so the customer knows about this. I mean, this isn't... You bring these examples out of the woodwork as if they just come out of some glass jar you just open at this particular moment.
Michael, I would never have sent that candidate out because before that candidate walks in the front door for that interview, I would know those things. You have to take time. It's not. I think unfortunately, way too many recruiters look at a resume, accept it on face value, talk to the candidate and verify what they're saying, and then say, "I got the person." Because they see the dollar signs of a placement, and they don't take the time to understand the nuances and the correct motivation. And is this a candidate that will accept the job and qualify for the job, and will the company offer the job and hire the candidate? I mean,
no, it's illegal. No. Let me stop
would a good recruiter not have known? A good recruiter would have known.
It's illegal to ask a question. It's illegal to ask questions about marital status.
It's not illegal to ask.
It depends how you ask it, and
it depends on how you use the information you gather.
Right.
Exactly.
You could frame the question the right way and get the answer
a good recruiter
without saying, "Hey, are you married?"
Yeah, it's just how you ask it and how you go about the process, Daniel. There's different degrees of sophistication in the way you ask questions and get answers and interpret it. And you're giving a very simplistic view, and that person that you just referred to me who's sent out that's got a boyfriend in France who may be the right candidate, and the higher, I would never send that candidate out. I'd know it beforehand.
Why wouldn't you say? Why not? Why not?
Because I
would have
whether or not
submitted
they're going to accept the job, and I know the company if they're going to offer it or not. You can't leave those things to chance. If you do the deal right, like one of the ways that you measure recruiting effectiveness and efficiency is called the send-out to placement ratio. How many send-outs do you send out on the average job to get a placement? I've known people all over the place. I know a good friend of mine. He knocks out 18 send-outs to one placement, incredibly high. I've got other people that hover somewhere around 2 to 3 to 1. Probably where it should be. So it's all over the place. This is not a science. This isn't a recruiting box you pour in specifications of people to and spit out placements. It's not, unfortunately, that scientific. And what you're looking for an answer that's finite, and people never are. People are never 100%. People are always, they have nuances and differences, and they make decisions based on different values.
Yeah, we're talking about something else now. I'm treating you like a regular guy, okay? So I'm going to be aggressive with you. You're answering a different question now. I wanted to know the attitude, and you said you for this situation, you have the same attitude you've always had. You just shrug. What the hell can I do about it? Let's say that you get an offer for somebody.
I'm sorry.
Isn't that what you said? That's what I heard.
Never had that.
That's what I heard.
So, Animal, let me make a recommendation here. You're asking for black and white answers from a person who is a master of the gray area.
Don't make fun of me, okay, Jeremy? You're on my show. Did I really ridicule you? Okay. Look, I just asked him, how can I be philosophical about something like that instead of banging my head against the wall, okay? And he said, well, I've always been like that.
You're not being a philosopher. You're trying to be a mathematician. You're saying if these conditions exist, X, Y, and Z, this has to happen, B. And that's not the case in recruiting, unfortunately. I wish it was.
Okay. So here's another case. You got a candidate, good candidate, going to get an offer. At the last minute, she calls you and tells you she got a better offer someplace else. And you did ask her if she was interviewing someplace else, and she said no, but something else came up at the last minute. Okay?
Because email, they all lie. Sure.
Okay. So what's your – no, but I want to know if what you started out telling us at the beginning, you've got IPF. You realize, you might die soon. And so that changed your life, you said. But when I'm asking you, and you said all of us recruiters, like I said in the intro, we all have to overcome and rise above challenges. So I'm asking you, after you've had stuff like this happen, one thing after another, how do you rise above it? I have the feeling that you had a revelation that you were going to share to us so that, we could be better people.
I'm not sure so what's the question? What do you ask?
This woman calls after she told me that she wasn't taking a look at any other jobs. I've got the offer. She says, sorry, I accepted something. I really appreciate the work you've done for me. You're a fantastic recruiter, and I'm going to recommend you to everybody, but I accepted an offer somewhere else, so you're not going to make $30,000. Tough luck, okay? How do I, tolerate that?
Don't we all tolerate that?
If you can't, get out of the business, dude.
Yeah, really.
Hunter down and kill her.
Nobody, I don't know any recruiter anywhere that's ever had 100% on send-outs and placements. You find that person for me, and I'll sit at their feet and worship them. It doesn't exist. I've had fall-offs and failures. I've lost fees. I've had turn-downs. Nobody's 100%. I'm not.
And you go home happy after you got the turn down? That's what I'm asking you. Did you go home happy?
Hell yeah, because you got it out of the way. You're golden for the next 4 or 5 months, man. You're out.
That's your ratios, right, Jerry? After one turn down, they only happen every once in a while. Okay, yeah.
It's a numbers game.
Maureen,
no game, Maureen. It is no game.
If you don't get turned downs, you're not working. Listen, you have to have turn downs if you're a recruiter. That's just a fact of life. Nothing's 100%. If you have 100%, you might make as many as 2 or 3 placements a year.
Yeah, like the guest last week was talking about how he places everybody he ever sent out or something. And I'm like, dude, you're not doing enough send-outs.
That's right. That doesn't happen. Nothing in recruiting because we're dealing with people. And as long as you got people, you don't have 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Who's got another question for Bill? Jeremy, you can ask a question too. I won't forbid you.
Can we, Michael? How about if we all ask you questions? Can we do that?
No, you're the guest. Okay. Bill, let me ask you something, Blood. So you got this IPF. I met Bill, and really, he is a model of health and fitness. Okay, and I was very impressed when I met him. You know what? I was a bit stupider back then. It was quite a while ago. And I thought, geez, Bill's 69 years old. That's old. But he didn't seem old at all, right? So now I know a little better that that's not so old anyway. But you seemed like a very lively guy. And I think soon after I met you, you hurt your arm when you were skateboarding, okay? So that's the kind of person you were. But now, are you different? You said you're winded. Are you sick all the time? And I've read a lot of your diet stuff on Facebook. You started doing the Stone Age diet or like the paleo diet, and you said that really helped you. Are you a sick person who says, I'm going to die tomorrow, or are you just leading a normal life like you've always left? I don't know.
Well,
lived, rather.
Put in perspective, I'm training for a Tough Mudder in April. It'll be a week after my 77th birthday, which I fully expect to win my age group. I won my last 5K I ran in McKinney in April of last year. I lift twice a week. I swim twice a week. I run twice a week. I'm physically active. I work hard in doing what I do,
Mm-hmm.
and my life hasn't changed that much. But I also recognize I'm probably in the top 0.1% of all patients as far as stability. I haven't gotten as bad as many do. I've been fortunate. Maybe it's genes, maybe it's diet, maybe it's prayer, maybe it's attitude. I'm not sure what it is, but whatever it is, I'm doing all those things that have kept me well.
Okay. Anybody else got a question for Bill? Bill, anything we haven't covered that you want to talk about? So I'll go over. I don't think Jerry doing an after show.
Yeah.
Okay, well I'll go over a little if Phil has.
I mean, there's not much we can do. I mean, with the after show, I mean, nobody's going to say anything bad about Bill. Which is, I mean, it's.
Yeah. Okay.
So kind of in a corner here on this one.
Then let me just take a little time. Bill, do you want to review something, or is there something you haven't told us? So here's what I think. You came on because you wanted to make sure that we all know about IPF. What's the first word again? What does I stand for?
Idiopathic, meaning unknown. And that's my first mission. And secondly, Michael, I wanted to do that. Secondly, I wanted to inspire those patients, if they do listen to this, that there is life, not simply death, in living with IPF. And third, I want to help recruiters in some way, form, or fashion. And that's my 3 missions. Very simple.
Okay, but Bill, you just told us that you're the top 1%. That means very few people are leading a life like you. When they get this illness, they're in bad shape. Is that right?
I have friends that have died within 2 weeks of diagnosis.
Oh.
And I've had others that have been out there for 8, 9, 10 years. So you can't just look at the numbers in itself. But no matter how many days you have or how many years, you want to take every day and suck it dry. It's like carpe diem. Seize the day, live it, love it, and bring joy to it. It's like those questions I asked you. Did you bring joy, and did you find joy? And you should ask yourself that every day and every morning, first thing in the morning and last thing at night. If you ask yourself those 2 questions, Michael, then I've had a successful talk in your show.
I've got to tell you, I'll challenge that because I'm not a believer in the Egyptian religion, the ancient Egyptian religion. So, like, once I die, who cares? Nothing matters. It doesn't matter if I brought joy or had joy. It's over, okay? So, I mean,
I never would have thought you to be an Egyptian for some reason, Michael. I don't know why, but I never would have seen that.
That's one of the great things about dying. You don't have to worry about anything anymore. It's over, okay? So I know I'm going to die. That's why people feel free once they accept that. They say, well, okay, so and-so doesn't like me. What do I care? I'm going to die in a little while anyway. It's not going to have a big effect on me. It's not going to last forever. So anyway, that's the... Go ahead.
Before this started, I had coffee this morning with a friend of mine who's also an IPF patient who was diagnosed about 6 months ago, and he's progressing very fast, meaning he's already on oxygen and having a tough time. And I talked about this show. I talked about you. I didn't talk about you, Jerry. I apologize. But
that's all right. I prefer to stay in the background and just keep it all running. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you're a quiet guy.
But I asked him a question. I said, in this process, have you learned anything? He said, yeah, to treasure the people and the time I have. And I think that's the secret to it. Treasure what you have, enjoy it, and love life. It's the one thing you got. You got one shot. Make it the best.
Okay. Anything else before we go, Bill? I didn't sing the song, but I have a song, okay? It was Walking in the Sand. Does anybody want to sing with me? The lyrics are just no.
I thought you were going to do Eye of the Tiger.
No, you said that, and you said you wouldn't sing, so I wasn't going to sing it myself because I don't like that song. I tell you what, we won't do it. We won't do a song. Okay, Bill. You know what? I mean, like now you sort of, I don't know, you confused me whether you're dying or not, but come back on the show again. We obviously got a lot to talk to you about.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill!
You know, Bill Vick is such a nice guy.
Oh, don't say that because I'm here, Jerry, but thank you. I appreciate it.
No, hey, get rid of this jerk. Animal, cut him off. Oh, my goodness.
I think there should be a show where the tables are turned and everybody can simply ask Michael questions, because I have a lot of questions I'd like to ask you, Michael.
You know, Blake Cannon, a heavy-duty recruiter from Austin, has suggested that several times, where Animal's going to be the guest and we all just get a fry him. I think that sounds great.
I think we need to do that on SourceCon Live. SourceCon Live.
Yeah, I think it's really great.
Love it.
And guys, I'm not sure if I've reached you behind the scenes as well as the people that were listening to this, but I'm most sincere about this. I would hope you take the time to live days and the moments that you have. And Jeremy, I know you do that, and I think actually there's other people that do as well. But I'd encourage you to take a second and just be thankful for what you have. I'm not trying to get all touchy-feely.
No, I know, and I'm being someone who hasn't run into a life crisis yet, I do bump into, like, say, your situation here, and it gives us all time to think about, take today and really, hug the ones you love. And problem is, without something really actually pressing, you just kind of forget it after a couple of days, and you're back to, I don't know, yelling at the kids or whatever.
You need that catalyst. Yep.
Unfortunately, I mean, it's just until there's something that's really, you're looking down the barrel at it. It's weird. And I'm certainly not wishing that upon myself. Clearly not. But you know what I mean. So, all right, well, guys, hey, Animal. Yeah. I don't even know what's going on here. He's abandoned us. I'm just in the middle of a ton of stuff. But Bill, I always love talking with you. I think you're it's easy to be a flash in the pan guy that's out here and people get to know, and pretty soon they fade away. You've been here forever. It's awesome. So I do have a question though. Is that Pinnacle Club? Are they still around?
Yeah, I'm not. I haven't been active in Pinnacle for the last 8-10 years, but yes, sure, they're out there. I'm not sure how active they are or anything else. I'm really not. I've lost contact with that group.
I mean, that was kind of like the cool group to think about being a part of when I was on my way up in the profession.
Well, you know why it really started out, the reality, and a guy named Tony Burns was a catalyst to make it all come together and make it happen.
Tony Burns. Mm-hmm.
Great trainer. But the reason that came together was because the people at that time that were big billers, the guys that were doing those numbers in that time, probably 500 a year or better, anytime that we'd go to a meeting, we never could ask questions. We always had to answer them. And so we put together Pinnacle as a place where we could just be very candid and laid back and open and ask innocent questions and get great answers. And that's how it really started out.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, thanks for calling in, and hey, take it easy, everybody. I got to get back to work. It's just too wacky here. But Bill, always a treat to talk to you, man. I wish you well.
All right, guys. Hey, I've appreciated it. Jeremy, nice talking to you.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Walking in the sand. Walking hand